I guess you don't count. That's what my sister said when the seating chart had me out by the trash. The hallway smelled of lilies and bleach. Inside, I could hear the digit ticking back to the first dance. And my mother adjusted her pearls. My father looked away. I tightened my grip on the gift I'd wrapped the night before. I smoothed out my wine-colored dress and chose silence. No arguing, no tears. I stood up and stepped out into the Vermont air. Not 5 minutes later, the chandeliers fell silent and a scream split the room in two. Here's what happened next. The Vermont air was crisp that morning, the kind that smells of bread and money. My sister Lila had chosen Lakeside Resort for its European charm, the kind of place where people take pictures just to prove they were invited. And the ballroom was upside down. It was dotted with orchids and candles floating in crystal bowls. Every table inside was surrounded by chandeliers. Mine was apparently near the trash. I had driven 3 hours from Boston alone, replaying Mom's last message in my head. Please, no drama today. It's Lila's day. That's all I've ever been to her. An instruction, a warning label. Don't make noise, don't take up space. And don't remind anyone that there's another girl. Growing up, we were the clichés you see in family portraits, the golden child and the silent child. Lila had ribbons and trophies. I had school reports that no one looked at. She cried and was rescued, period. I fixed things and was ignored. Mom said I was the easy one. Dad said I was independent. They both meant the same thing, invisible. It was convenient. The last time I saw them together was at Sexgiving. 3 years ago. I remember the house smelling like burnt pie crust and lemon cleaner. Lila was in Portugal with her new boyfriend. For once, the air was light, period. Mom asked me to get an old photo album from her dresser drawer. Instead, I found her little brown journal with its edges softened by years of use. I leafed through it curiously until I realized that all the pages began the same way. Lila's first day of preschool, her favorite meal, Lila's acceptance into college, but not a single line about me, not my birthdays, not my non-point. When I asked, Mom smiled like it was a silly question. Haven't you ever needed attention, honey? It's always been good. That night, I learned that there are 2 kinds of forgetting: loss and erasure. I thought about that journal as I walked to the ballroom, my heels clicking on the marble dot through the glass doors. I saw them posing for pictures. Mom in champagne, Dad straightening his tie, and Lila glowing in white. She turned, saw me once, and smiled the way people smile at salespeople they'll never remember. Point and the coordinator intercepted me with her clipboard. Are you ma'am? She asked. Her polite smile faltered when she saw my name. You're signed up for seat at the Loot. I waited for her to correct herself. She didn't. The aisle seats next to the trash cans. I followed her hand to the small folding table by the service doors. Not from there. I could see the entire ballroom, every spark, every laugh, but there was a wall between us, literally and figuratively, period. I set my gift on the table. A small silver box that I had spent hours choosing, and peered through the glass. Inside, Lila was raising her glass for a photo. Mom was adjusting her veil, period. I sat in the cold draft and told myself the same lie I'd repeated for years. It's okay. You don't need them. But the truth pressed against my silent, solid chest. Maybe I didn't. Period. But that didn't mean they had the right to treat me like I never existed. Period. I tried to disappear as always, but the hallway wasn't quiet. Staff came and went through the back door, carrying tubs of melting ice cream, laughing under their breath. Period. Every time it opened, I saw the chandeliers of the Saint-Thier ballroom. Dresses swayed. My mother's hand on Lila's shoulder like a crown of approval. Period. Then the laughter moved. I looked up and saw Lila walking toward me, the bouquet in one hand, her veil trailing smoke behind her. She stopped just outside the door, her reflection split in the glass, 2 versions of her, one adored on the inside, the other cruel on the outside. Well, she said, tilting her head, looks like they've finally found your place. Period. I blinked. What does that mean? She smiled that half smile I'd seen since childhood, the one she used before stealing the show. I guess you don't count. The words came out so softly I almost didn't see how sharp they were. I guess you don't count. Like it was math, like I was a miscalculation. For a second, I didn't say anything. Period. My throat was dry. The kind of dryness you get when you've swallowed too much pride. The photographer was calling the bride. You have to get back in the picture. She didn't move. She wanted me to react, to cry, to beg, to prove her right. I didn't react. I just looked at her long enough for her smile to form. You know, I said softly, there was always room for both of us. You're the one who keeps narrowing it. Her eyes narrowed. Oh please, Bar, it's not all about you. This is my day. You could at least pretend to be happy for once. I let out a small laugh, the kind that sounds like air escaping through a crack. You made it so I couldn't even sit in the same room. What exactly am I doing? For a moment, the mask slipped. I saw a glimmer of hope, fear, maybe nothing. Then she straightened up, lifting her chin. You always twist things. Maybe Mom was right. You make everything difficult, Mom. The name hit harder than I intended. I pictured that brown notebook again, every page filled with Lila's life and none of mine. I'm not difficult, I said. It's just that you never like me seeing things for what they are. She rolled her eyes. You sound like Dad, pathetic and bitter. Face it. No one needs your approval, really. Here and never. She turned on her heel, leaving a trail of perfume and disdain behind her. I watched her leave, her white dress brushing the floor, and I felt the familiar burn behind my eyes. But this time, the pain wasn't the same. The burn was sharper, period. As the door closed behind her, I picked up the small silver box on the table, the gift I'd picked out the day before, wrapped in quiet patience. I tied the ribbon once, then slipped it into my bag, period. If you didn't want me inside, so be it, but I wasn't leaving empty-handed. Not this time. For a moment, I sat there, my fingers pressed against the smooth edge of the box, listening to the muffled rhythm of the music that drifted through the doors of the ballroom. This was supposed to be their first dance. A perfect picture, period. I imagined Mom wiping away her tears, Dad clapping awkwardly, Lila reveling in the applause. The same scene I had watched all my life from the edges, period, but the edges are cut. I stood up slowly. My reflection was reflected in the glass panel, still composed, perhaps even graceful if you didn't look too closely. Inside the bag, the silver gift seemed heavier than it should be. I had wrapped it carefully the day before, tying the ribbon tighter than necessary, period. It wasn't just a gift. It was evidence, something that could shatter the image Lila had constructed out of lies. 3 weeks earlier, I had met one of her former colleagues in Boston. An innocuous lunch had turned into a confession. For months, Lila had bragged about how rich she had married, how easily Noah had trusted her. He's nice, she had said, but I'm naive. A few fake tears and I get the house, the money, the family name. She had laughed. My coffee had gone cold. I hadn't planned on using that information. Until today, point before leaving the hallway, I returned to the reception table near the entrance to the ballroom. The wedding planner was distracted, tending to the centerpiece's point. I slipped the small silver box among the other gifts. Just above the pile labeled, Alila and Noah, my handwriting was neat, deliberate point inside. Above a crystal frame, there was a folded note and a printout of the messages her coworker had shown me in the form of a screenshot and receipt. It wasn't a threat, just the truth, period. I stepped back, checked my reflection one last time, and straightened my dress. My heart wasn't racing. It was calm and steady in a way that felt almost foreign to me. Then I turned and walked toward the exit point in the Vermont party. Hit me with a blast of cold air. Lake St. El was lit up by the lights, a mirror I no longer needed. Only I could hear the faint echo of applause behind me, the crowd cheering. A dance I no longer wanted to watch. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel invisible, period. I reached the parking lot, the crunch of gravel beneath my talons like punctuation. No dramatic farewell, no speech, just the silent closing of a car door. Period. As I started the engine, I glanced back at the shiny windows, the figures moving behind the glass, and whispered to myself, may the truth find its way. In the ballroom, laughter still floated above the music. A saxophonist played a soft note. The verses clashed in the crowd that pressed around the couple on the dance-up dance floor. Lila beamed in her heavy white dress, the picture of perfection she had rehearsed for months. Noah spun it once, twice. The camera flashes painted everything in high angle. From outside through the tall windows, the scene looked like a sealed snow globe. Flawless, unreal. Then the silver box was opened. It happened near the gift table. A cousin had gathered the gifts, sorting out the bows and ribbons for the photos. Point, someone said, let's open them, to give the guests a spontaneous show. Point turned around, laughing, and pulled the ribbon free. The paper came off, the lid lifted, and inside was the crystal frame. Beneath it, the folded note. Her hand hesitated. What is it? Bea leaned over, and the note slid off and landed face up on the table. Her eyes caught the screenshots before she couldn't grasp them. He frowned, scanning the text messages printed in pale blue bubbles. One sentence stood out. He's so easy to manipulate. Cry a little and he'll buy me anything I want. The music didn't stop right away. It just got weaker. The violinist stumbled, missing a beat. Lila's fingers were shaking. This isn't someone trying to figure out that I didn't respond. He kept reading. Page after page, period. Each line worse than the last. Jokes about making him sign the prenup first and moving mom and dad into ET's house once he was settled. The same smile she'd given me a few hours ago, now frozen on her face, brittle and fake. Who sent this? Quote. She hissed. Her mother-in-law Victoria was watching the scene from across the room. When she heard the name Ember whispered by one of the bridesmaids, her expression hardened. She crossed the room with the slow certainty of someone accustomed to authority. I think you should read the rest before you blame anyone, she said. They came to me this morning, sent by a stylist you hired. Apparently he wasn't in the right thread. Lila's face was as clear as possible. And her voice was low. That's right, Lila. The dates match. He turned the last page. A photo of her said, "The house will be mine for Christmas." A collective gasp ran through the guests. Phones came out. The photographer stopped mid-shot. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Lila lunged for the papers. You can't show this to people. Victoria stepped between them. You showed it yourself, my dear. That's when the screaming started, not very loud at first, more like the air leaving a body too quickly. Lila stumbles backwards, the train of her dress catching under her heel. No, you don't understand. He's lying. It's my sister. She's the one who did this. Noah's jaw clenches. And Bar didn't write her messages. She hid them. She's jealous. She's always arrested. The single word cracked through the room like a whip. You did this. You humiliated him today and you thought no one would ever see who you really are. All faces turned towards them. The dig lowers the volume. A child's voice asks, Mom, what's going on? Lila's perfect day was dissolving and she couldn't hold it in anymore. She turned to her parents. Do something. My mother Maggie stood stiffly by the head table, her champagne glass shaking. My father stared at the floor, his lips pressed together. For once, neither of them defended him. You said that, Noah said quietly, his voice shaking. You knew exactly what you were doing. He reached into his jacket. A folded document was pulled out and placed on the table. Period. It's a cancellation request. I've already signed it. Lila stared at the paper as if it were an electrical wire. You can't, Noah, you can't humiliate me like that. I'm not humiliating you, he said. You did it yourself. Someone turned the music off completely. The room fell into a silence so deep it was ringing in people's ears. Then came the sound the guests would remember, the sound of the crystal shattering as the frame hit the floor. Her voice cracked. She's behind this embarrassment, behind all of this. Victoria exhaled slowly. It's funny. The only thing your sister did was tell the truth. Quote. Outside, I stopped. Past the idling car engine. The glow from the ballroom windows cast a glow across the lake. I couldn't hear every word, but I heard the scream. It was high and shrill, echoing off the water, followed by the dull thud of a chair rocking. The sound I'd been waiting for my whole life, not out of cruelty, but to bring closure, was coming inside. Lila's mascara was running down her cheeks. Are you going to regret this? She cried, her voice cracking. Noah turned away. The shoulder is heavy. No, Lila, you will regret this. He left the dance floor, followed by Victoria, the crowd parting around them as Mommy, grabbed Lila's arm. Honey, maybe we should go outside. Don't touch me. She pulled away. This is what you all wanted. You never loved me enough. Her voice broke into a sob. Dad spoke softly for the first time that night. Quote. You should apologize to your sister. The words stunned everyone, even Mommy. But Lila just laughed, a sound so fragile it didn't reach her eyes. Quote, I should apologize to her. She's not even family. Dad shook his head slowly. That's where you're wrong. He stood there and turned away. Shoulders slumped as he followed the crowd toward the exit. That's when the lights went out and the staff began sweeping up the broken glass on the floor. Lila sat alone under the chandelier. Her once dazzling dress now felt heavy and crumpled. The bouquet had fallen beside her chair. The same hands that had pushed me away were now clutching at the air, desperate for something to hold. She never saw me. I was already gone, through the fogged-up window of the car. I watched the guests hurry out into the parking lot. Whispers trailing behind them. It's all over social media already. Did you see her face? That poor girl. I know the other one, the sister. I didn't feel triumph, just silence. I put my hand on the steering wheel and thought about the hallway, the smell of bleach, the folding chair that creaked as I sat down. Period. It all started with a seat by the trash cans. How did it end with the truth laid bare in front of everyone who'd ever looked through me? Justice doesn't always roar. Period. Sometimes it whispers, now it sees you. The scream faded, swallowed by the night. The lake stilled, glassy and calm again. Period. I turned the key, the headlights sweeping across the gravel, and I walked away from the perfect world of my sister collapsing behind me. By the time I reached Boston, the sky was starting to turn gray. Period. The highway signs merged with the whirring of tires, steady and faint like white noise. After years of screaming that I had learned to ignore. Period, my phone buzzed incessantly in the cup holder. 16 missed calls from Mom, 3 from Dad, 1 from a number I didn't recognize. I didn't check any of them. The quiet was better than explanations. Period. When I entered my apartment, it smelled faintly of coffee and rain. The city was waking up. The headlights of cars passed by my window. Period. I hung my dress on the back of a chair and stared at it. The light color was still impeccable, untouched by the night. It looked like a suit of armor I didn't know I was wearing. A new message popped up. Please reply. In a row. We didn't know. It was Mom. She always said that when things were bad, you didn't know. But she had always known, period. Every time she had told me to be quiet, every time she had said, "Are you okay?" Quote. I put the phone on the counter and opened my laptop. A map of the M appeared dotted with small coastal towns. I picked one I had never been to and clicked book. A week by the water, it was peace. Before I left, I stepped out onto the balcony. The city air smelled cleaner than it had in years. Across the river, the morning sun cut the skyline in gold, and many could keep their excuses, their explanations, their versions of the truth. I had mine now, for the first time in my life. Silence didn't mean being invisible, it meant being free. At my sister's wedding, I sat by the trash cans. This morning, I sit by the river. Same silence, different meaning. Back then, it was humiliation. Now, it's peace, period. Sometimes, revenge louder is not a scream. It's a lesson from your own footsteps leaving the room. He thought I would always sit there waiting for their approval, but I'm not waiting anymore. I'm not telling myself a seat at someone else's table, period. I'm building my own. And if you've ever been pushed aside by the people who are supposed to love you, know this: walking away is not weakness. It's the beginning of freedom, period. Tell me, have you ever had to walk away from your own family? Share your story below and stay tuned for the next one.
Do you now see the power of the brain melter? You feel it. You feel it. Go to sleep. Just go to sleep. Just give in.